you cat lovers out there. All right, so you want to know how to get your cat to drink more water.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm always struggling with that myself. And we're taking a deep dive today on some guidance from International Cat Care.
Oh, a great resource.
Yeah, they really know their stuff.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna dive into their guide and see what we can learn.
Sounds good.
I got to admit, when I was reading this, I was pretty surprised by some of the things I learned. Like, did you know that water temperature actually plays a role in how much a cat's willing to drink?
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's just one of the things we're going to be diving into today. But let's start with the basics. Why is hydration so important for our cats?
Yeah, it's such a fundamental part of their health and well-being. You know, it impacts their organs, especially their kidneys, helps them get rid of waste. It helps regulate their temperature, even the joints.
I never thought about the joint thing.
Yeah, and you know, especially if they have like urinary tract issues or kidney disease, it's even more important for them to stay hydrated.
So it's really, really important.
It is.
Okay, so we know that it's important.
Yeah.
But cats are such picky drinkers.
Oh, tell me about it.
They just refuse to drink sometimes.
It's so frustrating.
It's like they're trying to drive us crazy.
Well, it's not exactly that. It actually goes back to their instincts. You know, in the wild, stagnant water could be really dangerous for them, full of bacteria and parasites.
Oh, that makes sense.
So they evolved to prefer fresh running water. It's just in their DNA.
So they're not being difficult.
No, not really.
They're just trying to survive.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we work with that?
Well, International Cat Care has some really good advice about setting up the perfect water bowl.
Okay, the water bowl.
Yeah, it's not just about putting out any old bowl.
Right.
There's a lot to think about, like the material, the shape, how full it is, where you put it.
I never would have thought about all that.
Yeah, they even talk about whisker fatigue.
Whisker fatigue?
Yeah, apparently a cat's whiskers are super sensitive. And if their bowl is too narrow, it can actually irritate their whiskers when they try to drink.
So they don't want to drink.
Exactly. So wider, shallower bowls are better.
Oh, okay. So what about material? Like what kind of bowl is best?
They recommend glass metal or ceramic plastic. Plastic can hold on to odors, which cats don't like.
So you want to make sure it's appealing to them.
Yeah, definitely.
And they also say to keep the bowl topped up.
Yeah. A full bowl signals to them that there's plenty of fresh water available.
Oh, so it's not just about the quantity.
No, it's about how they perceive it.
That's interesting. And where should we put the bowl?
Away from their food. Apparently, they like to keep those things separate.
Oh, so like designated eating and drinking areas.
Exactly. And somewhere quiet. You wouldn't want to drink next to a highway.
Definitely not.
And it's a good idea to have multiple bowls, especially if you have more than one cat.
Okay. Makes sense. So we've got the bowl situation figured out.
Yeah.
But the guide also talks about running water.
Oh, yeah. Cats love running water.
Why is that?
Again, it goes back to their instincts. In the wild, running water is more likely to be clean and fresh.
So it makes them feel safer.
Exactly. So things like water fountains or even a dripping tap can really encourage them to drink.
That's so cool.
Yeah, there are all sorts of fun options. You can even put a ping pong ball in their bowl.
A ping pong ball.
Yeah, it makes the water move around.
So it's like a game for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And did you know that cats can actually be water snobs?
Water snobs? What do you mean?
I mean, they can have preferences for certain types of water.
Really?
Yeah, it might sound silly, but their senses of taste and smell are so much stronger than ours.
So they're like little water connoisseurs.
Exactly. And the International Cat Care Guide actually suggests experimenting with different types of water, like tap water if it's safe filtered water, bottled water, even rainwater.
Rainwater?
Yeah, why not? You never know what your cat might prefer.
So it's like a taste test for our cats.
Exactly. And finding the right water could be the key to getting them to drink more.
So we've got to find their favorite flavor. Okay, so we've got the water bowls, we've got the running water, we've got the different types of water. What else can we do to encourage them to drink?
Well, the guide also talks about incorporating other liquids into their diet.
Oh, like what?
Things like broth from cooked chicken or fish tuna water. You can even make homemade cat soup.
Cat soup.
That sounds interesting.
It's a fun way to get them to drink more. And it makes sense. Since they're obligate carnivores, they thrive on meat-based protein.
So those meaty liquids are really appealing to them.
Yeah, and they can be really good for them too. But it's important to remember that not all liquids are safe.
Oh, right.
Like salty things like brine or a no-no. And milk can actually upset their stomach.
Really? I always thought cats loved milk.
Yeah, it's a common misconception. And you should never give them anything with onions.
Onions are toxic to cats.
Exactly. So stick to the guide's recommendations.
Okay, good advice. So what if you've tried all of that and your cat still isn't drinking enough?
Well, there are a few other things you can try.
The guide talks about making subtle changes to their environment.
Oh,
Good example. Did you know that cats generally prefer room temperature water?
really?
Yeah, it turns out that the flavor of water is more pronounced at warmer temperatures.
Hmm.
So letting the tap water sit for a bit or even using lukewarm water might make a difference.
So it's all about those little details.
Exactly. You got to cater to their sensitive palates.
I'm learning so much today.
Yeah, too.
Any other tips?
Well, they also talk about the importance of diet.
Diet.
Yeah, incorporating wet food into their diet can be a great way to boost their fluid intake.
Oh, right, because wet food has a lot more moisture than dry food.
Exactly. It's like sneaking veggies into a kid's pasta sauce.
I love that analogy.
And if your cat is a dry food fan, you can try adding a bit of water to their kibble to soften it up.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, just little tweaks can make a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing is to be patient.
Patient?
Yeah, cats are creatures of habit, and they don't like change.
Tell me about it.
So make changes gradually and don't give up.
Consistency is key.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
What are some of the key takeaways you'd like our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that even small changes can make a big difference in a cat's hydration.
Okay.
Providing multiple water sources, considering their preferences, and incorporating those enticing liquids can all contribute to a healthier and happier cat.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's so important to remember that observing our cat's drinking habits can tell us a lot about their overall well-being.
Absolutely.
And if you notice any significant changes or have any concerns, always consult with your veterinarian.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this fascinating exploration of feline hydration.
It's been a pleasure.
It really has.
Yeah.
I've learned so much today, and I hope our listeners have too.
Me too.
And you know, it's amazing how much we can learn about our cats when we take the time to really dive into these topics.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Who knew there was so much to consider when it comes to something as simple as water?
Right. It really shows how important it is to be curious and to look beyond the surface when it comes to pet care.
And I think it's so cool how so many of these hydration tips connect back to a cat's natural instincts and evolutionary history.
Absolutely. It's easy to forget that our domesticated companions still have those wild instincts within them.
Even after all these years of living with humans.
Exactly. And respecting those instincts is crucial to giving them the best possible care.
Like their preference for running water and their sensitivity to bowl material and placement.
Yeah, it all goes back to their innate drive to find safe and appealing water sources.
Just like their ancestors in the wild.
Exactly.
It's a good reminder that our cats aren't just miniature humans with fur.
Right.
They have their own unique needs and perspectives.
And we need to understand and respect those.
Absolutely. And I think that understanding can make all the difference in building a strong, healthy, and enriching relationship with our feline companions.
I completely agree.
Well said. Well, I think that's a beautiful note to end on.
It is.
We've learned so much today about the intricacies of feline hydration, from the science behind their preferences to practical tips for encouraging them to drink more.
It's been an eye-opening deep dive.
It really has. And I hope our listeners feel empowered to put this knowledge into action, helping their beloved cats stay happy, healthy, and well hydrated.
Absolutely.
So to all the cat lovers out there, remember to observe your feline friends, experiment with different approaches, and most importantly, be patient.
Good advice.
Your cats will thank you for it, even if it's just with a gentle purr and a head boop.
And until next time, may your water bowls be full and your cats be purring contentedly.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Like they even suggest trying tap water if it's safe, of course, or filtered water or bottled spring water.
Oh, wow.
They even say rainwater.
Rainwater. For your cat.
Yeah, it's like we're doing a taste test to find out what our cat likes best.
Our cats are little water connoisseurs.
I know, right? And speaking of enticing them to drink, the guide also had some suggestions about incorporating other liquids into their diet.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
Right.
So they talk about adding things like broth or tuna water, even homemade cat soup.
Yeah. Like, it sounds like we're making gourmet meals for our cats.
It does. It's like gourmet hydration.
Exactly. And it makes sense because cats are obligate carnivores, right?
Yeah.
Their bodies are designed to thrive on meat-based protein.
So it makes sense that those meaty liquids would be appealing to them.
Exactly. Plus, it's a good way to sneak in some extra hydration.
Right. They specifically mentioned broth from cooked chicken or fish.
Yeah.
Which seems pretty easy. And who hasn't seen a cat go crazy for that tuna water?
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. But you have to be careful, not all liquids are safe for cats.
Oh, that's right.
The guide specifically warns against anything salty like brine.
Oh, okay.
And milk can actually upset their stomachs.
Milk?
Really?
I always thought cats loved milk.
It's a common misconception. And you should never give them anything with onions.
Right. Onions are toxic to cats.
Exactly. So stick to the guide's recommendations.
Okay, so we've got the fancy water bowls.
Yeah.
We've got the running water.
Uh-huh.
We've got the different types of water.
Right.
We've got the extra liquids.
Yeah.
What if you've tried all of that and your cat is still hesitant to drink?
Well, the guide has a few more tricks up its sleeve.
Oh, really? Like what?
They say that even making small changes to their environment can help.
Oh, okay. Like what kind of changes?
Well, for example, did you know that cats generally prefer room temperature water over cold water?
Really?
Yeah.
I've always just filled their bowl straight from the tap.
It turns out that the flavor of water is actually stronger at warmer temperatures.
Oh, that's interesting.
So letting that tap water sit for a bit, or even using lukewarm water, could make a difference.
Huh. So we're really catering to those sensitive palates.
We are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any other hidden gems in the guide?
Let me think. They also talk about how important diet is for hydration.
Diet.
Yeah, for instance, incorporating wet food into their diet can be a great way to increase their fluid intake.
Oh, right, because wet food has a much higher moisture content than dry food.
Exactly. It's like sneaking in those extra veggies.
I love that.
And if your cat loves dry food, you can always try adding a little water to their kibble.
To soften it up.
Yeah, exactly. Just little changes like that can make a big difference. But the most important thing is to be patient.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine cats don't like change.
No, they don't. They're creatures of habit.
My cat freaks out if I move the furniture.
Exactly. So be patient and persistent.
Yeah.
Make gradual changes and don't give up.
Consistency is key.
Exactly.
Well, I feel like we've covered a ton of ground today.
We have. It's been quite a deep dive.
It really has.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that even small changes can make a big difference in a cat's hydration. Providing multiple water sources, considering their preferences and incorporating those enticing liquids, can all contribute to a healthier and happier cat.
I love that. It's all about making it appealing to them.
Exactly. And I think it's also important to remember that observing our cat's drinking habits can tell us a lot about their overall well-being.
Right. If something changes drastically, that could be a sign that something's wrong.
Exactly. And if you notice any significant changes or have any concerns, always consult with your veterinarian.
They're the experts.
They are.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive on cat hydration.
It's been a fun one.
It really has. I feel like I learned a lot.
Me too.
And you know, it's amazing how much we can learn about our cats.
Yeah.
When we really take the time to dig into these topics.
It is fascinating.
Who knew there was so much to think about?
I know, right?
When it comes to something as basic as water.
It just shows you how important it is to really think about our pets' needs.
Yeah, to look beyond the surface. And I think it's so cool how a lot of these hydration tips really tie back to a cat's instincts.
Right.
And their evolutionary history.
It's easy to forget that our house cats still have those wild instincts.
Yeah, even after all these years of living with us.
Exactly. And respecting those instincts is so important for their well-being.
Like their preference for running water. Or their sensitivity to bowl material and placement.
Right.
It all goes back to their natural drive to find safe and appealing water.
Just like their ancestors in the wild.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that our cats aren't just little humans with fur.
Definitely not.
They have their own unique needs and perspectives.
And it's up to us to understand and respect those.
And I think that understanding can make all the difference in our relationship with them.
Absolutely.
Well said. That's a great note to end on.
It is.
We've learned so much today about the intricacies of feline hydration.
It's been quite the journey.
It has. From the science behind their preferences to practical tips for encouraging them to drink more.
It's been an eye-opening deep dive.
It really has. And I hope our listeners feel empowered.
I hope so too.
To use this knowledge to help their cats stay healthy and hydrated.
Me too.
So to all the cat lovers out there.
Yes.
Remember to observe your feline friends.
Yeah.
Experiment with different approaches. And most importantly, be patient.
Great advice.
Your cats will thank you for it.
They will.
Even if it's just with a gentle purr and a head boop.
And until next time, may your water bowls be full and your cats be purring contentedly.
Cheers to that. One. ready to become cat food label detectives. It's crazy how much info is crammed onto those things.
You're telling me it's a lot to process.
It really is. But don't worry, today's deep dive is all about making sense of those labels so you can confidently choose the best food for your cat.
That's right. Knowledge is power when it comes to feeding our furry friends.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're taking a look at an article from Purina called How to Read Cat Food Labels.
Oh yeah, that one.
Full disclosure, they are a pet food company.
Right.
But no matter what brand you buy, the info on the label is pretty universal, and this article breaks it down nicely.
Totally agree. Our goal here is to help you understand what all that stuff means so you can shop smart for your cat.
Exactly. So let's imagine you're standing in the pet food aisle, staring at a wall of choices.
Yeah.
Where do you even begin?
So many options.
Well, the article points out something important. A lot of what's on those labels is actually required by law.
That's right. There are regulations in place to make sure all cat food labels are giving us certain information.
Makes sense. Consistency and transparency are good. So what are we required to see on a label?
Right. So the article breaks it down into sections.
Perfect. Let's go through them.
Okay. So first up, the overview.
Makes sense. What's in there?
You'll see the brand name, of course.
Obvious, but important.
Then the specific formula name, like chicken dinner and gravy, or ocean whitefish formula.
Okay, so you know exactly what you're getting.
And the net weight, of course, so you know how much food you're actually buying.
That's important for comparisons, too. Some bags look bigger, but have less food. Okay, overview's done. What's next?
Then we get into the manufacturer or distributor information.
Right, so we know who made it, right?
Right. Might not be the most exciting part, but it's good for traceability.
Yeah, if you ever need to contact them with questions or, if there's ever like a recall or something.
Exactly.
Oh, and speaking of tracing things back, this surprised me. The article mentions that Purina labels actually include info that can pinpoint the exact date and even the plant where that specific bag of food was produced.
Really? That's cool.
Right. You can actually trace its journey. Talk about knowing your food's backstory.
That's pretty impressive.
Okay, let's get a little more technical. What about this guaranteed analysis?
Right. This section lists the minimum percentages of certain nutrients, like crude protein and fat, and the maximum percentages of crude fiber and moisture.
Crude. Sounds a bit rough. What's that about?
It's just a scientific term, don't worry. It refers to how they measure those nutrients in the lab.
Ah, so it's standardized.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And even though the law only requires those four, a lot of companies will list percentages for other nutrients too.
Nice. Extra info. What's next on our label adventure?
The nutritional adequacy statement. This is where you find that familiar phrase, complete and balanced.
Ah, yes, the holy grail of cat food claims. But what does it actually mean?
It means the food meets the standards set by AAFCO, the American Association of Feed Control Officials.
Right, AAFCO. They're the ones who make sure pet food is safe and nutritious.
Exactly. And it means the food provides all the essential nutrients a cat needs for a specific life stage kitten, adult, or senior.
So that's why you see different formulas for kittens versus older cats.
Yep, exactly. Different needs at different ages.
Got it. Then we have feeding directions, but those are more like guidelines than rules.
You got it. Every cat is different.
My cat, Whiskers, he could eat all day if I let him.
Right. You need to adjust the amount based on your cat's age, how active they are, their metabolism. Even their breed can play a role.
So many factors.
Yep. And if you're ever unsure, talk to your vet. They can help you figure out the best portions for your furry friend.
Makes sense. Better to be safe than sorry. Last but not least on our label tour, what about the calorie statement?
This one is key for making sure your cat's getting the right amount of energy.
And for watching their weight, right?
Especially if your kitty is prone to those extra chonk points.
Guilty as charged. My Whiskers loves his snacks.
It happens to the best of us. But the calorie statement helps you compare brands and make informed choices.
Makes sense. All right, so we've covered the basic legally required info, but I'm curious, what are those kibbles and cans actually made of? The article dives into ingredients versus nutrients, and that seems kind of crucial.
Absolutely. The ingredient list tells us what's in the food, like chicken, fish, corn, rice.
Right, the stuff we recognize.
But it's the nutrients, those ingredients provide the protein, fat, vitamins, and minerals that really matter for your cat's health.
Okay, so it's like knowing the difference between the raw materials and the finished product.
Exactly.
So let's talk about those essential nutrients. The article starts with protein, and apparently cats need way more of it than we do. Why is that?
Cats are obligate carnivores, meaning they're designed to thrive on a meat-based diet. Their bodies are super efficient at using protein and need more of it than dogs or humans.
Fascinating. It's like they're built to be little hunters. But what does protein actually do in their bodies? Why is it so important?
It's the building block for pretty much everything: muscles, tissues, enzymes, hormones, even their beautiful fur.
Wow, so protein is involved in their whole system functioning properly. The article also mentions amino acids. Are those just fancy words for protein, or?
Think of amino acids like the individual Legos that make up the protein castle.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Cats need 22 different types to function properly, but some, called essential amino acids, have to come from their diet. They can't make them themselves.
So it's not just about the amount of protein, but the quality and the specific building blocks it provides. And speaking of quality, the article talks about animal-based versus plant-based protein. Is one better than the other?
Cats can digest both, but only animal proteins have all those essential amino acids in the right amounts. So when you're checking that ingredient list, make sure real meat or fish sources are high up on the list.
Meat first. Got it. This is making me hungry. The article even mentions that cats need about 2.3 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So like a 10-pound cat would need roughly 23 grams of protein per day.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb.
Super helpful. Okay, let's move on to another nutrient that sometimes gets a bad rap. Fat. We've been told to avoid it, but it sounds like cats actually need it.
Oh, absolutely. Fat is a super concentrated source of energy for cats. Plus, it's crucial for healthy skin and a shiny coat.
Okay, so fat is good for their looks.
Right. Plus, it helps protect their organs and even build those brain cells.
So it's not about eliminating fat. It's about choosing healthy sources and making sure it's balanced with the other nutrients. Speaking of balance, the article says cats need a whopping 25 different vitamins and minerals. Why so many? That's more than we need.
Cats have some unique metabolic needs, and those vitamins and minerals play a key role in keeping everything running smoothly. They're involved in everything from energy production to immunity, bone health, vision, you name it.
Wow, that's a lot to keep track of. But at least a complete and balanced food should have that covered, right?
Exactly. The manufacturer has added those necessary vitamins and minerals to meet AAFCO standards.
Okay, that's reassuring. Now, time to tackle another controversial nutrient. Carbohydrates. Are carbs really the enemy of cat food? Or are they getting a bad rap?
They're definitely not the enemy. In fact, carbs can be a good source of energy for cats, and they provide fiber, which is important for healthy digestion.
So it's not about banning carbs completely, but choosing the right types and amounts. The article mentions some common sources like grains and alternatives like potatoes or peas.
Yeah, it's all about finding the right balance.
Got it. All right, so we've covered the key players: protein, fat, vitamins and minerals, and carbs. But what about those other ingredients, the ones with long scientific names that make me feel like I'm back in chemistry class?
Yes, the mystery ingredients. They can be intimidating. But most of the time, those long names are simply the scientific terms for vitamins and minerals.
Wait, really? So they're not sneaking weird chemicals into our cat's food?
Not at all. For example, the article mentions L-ascorbyl-2-polyphosphate. Sounds scary, right? But it's just the scientific name for vitamin C.
Oh, okay. I feel much better about that. But why use such complicated names? Why not just say vitamin C?
Scientific names make sure everyone's on the same page. It's a standardized way to identify specific vitamins and minerals no matter the brand, like a universal language for ingredients.
Makes sense. No more fear of long words. So we've cracked the code on ingredients, but now let's move on to another tricky part of cat food labels. Those claims and certifications. Terms like natural and organic get thrown around a lot, but what do they actually mean in the pet food world?
That's a great question because those terms can be misleading. Unlike human food, where natural isn't really regulated, there is a specific definition for natural when it comes to pet food.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it means the food doesn't contain any chemically synthesized ingredients except for vitamins, minerals, and amino acids.
Okay, so if I see natural on a cat food label, I can be pretty sure it's made with minimally processed ingredients. What about organic? Is that regulated differently?
The USDA has a definition for organic that applies to both human food and pet food. For pet food to be labeled as organic, it has to meet strict standards.
What kind of standards?
Like using ingredients grown without pesticides, herbicides, or GMOs.
Wow, so organic is definitely a step above natural.
Hmm.
The article also mentions other phrases we might see, like formulated to meat and animal feeding tests. Can you break those down for us?
Sure. Formulated to meet means that the company has analyzed the food to make sure it meets AAFCO's nutrient profile for the life stage it's intended for.
Okay, so they haven't necessarily done feeding trials, but on paper, it ticks all the boxes.
Exactly. And then animal feeding tests means the food has actually been fed to cats in an AFCO-approved study.
So real-world evidence that the food is safe and provides all the necessary nutrients.
Exactly.
Awesome. Wow, we've covered so much ground already. From those legally required label sections to the difference between ingredients and nutrients, I feel like I'm starting to see those cat food labels in a whole new light.
I'm glad to hear that. You're well on your way to becoming a label reading pro.
Thanks to your expertise.
Yeah.
But our deep dive isn't over yet.
Welcome back, everyone. We're diving right back into those cat food labels. Last time we decoded all that required info and talked about those essential nutrients our cats need.
Right. But choosing cat food isn't always as simple as just checking the label.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflicting info out there.
So many opinions and myths floating around, it can be confusing.
For sure. So today we're going to tackle some of those head on.
Mythbusters. I love it. Hit me with the first one. What do people often get wrong about cat food?
One of the biggest misconceptions is that all cats can thrive on the same diet. Just like us humans, cats have unique needs based on their age, breed, activity level, and even their overall health.
Right, that makes total sense. I mean, my cat, Whiskers, is a senior gentleman who enjoys napping in sunbeams, but my neighbor's cat, Luna, is a young, energetic Bengal who's always on the go. They definitely shouldn't be eating the same thing.
Exactly. A kitten needs a diet higher in calories and protein to support all that growth, and a super active adult cat needs more calories than a couch potato.
Makes sense. What about different life stages?
Right, so senior cats often need a diet that's easier in their digestion and lower in calories.
To match their slower metabolism.
Exactly.
So, tailoring the food to the individual cat is key. What about cats with, specific health conditions? I have a friend whose cat has a sensitive stomach, and she's always struggling to find food that doesn't upset his tummy.
Oh yeah, that's a common one. Thankfully, there are a lot of foods formulated for sensitive digestion.
That's good to hear.
You just have to pay close attention to that ingredient list,
All right, look for any potential triggers.
Some common culprits for tummy troubles are certain grains, dairy products, and artificial colors or flavors.
Good to know. So reading the label carefully is key. Now, what about those grain-free diets that are everywhere these days? Are they really better for cats, or is that just hype?
It's a good question. While some cats might have genuine sensitivities to certain grains, most cats can actually digest them just fine.
Really?
Yep. And grains can actually be a good source of nutrients and fiber. It's more about choosing high-quality grains and making sure the overall diet is balanced.
So not about demonizing grains completely, but making informed choices.
Right. Now, here's a question I think every cat owner has thought about at some point. Wet food versus dry food. Which is actually better?
The age-old debate. I'm ready to hear your take on this.
The truth is, both wet and dry food have their pros and cons.
I knew it. It's never that simple.
Right. Wet food tends to be higher in moisture, which can be beneficial for cats who aren't great drinkers. It's often more appealing to picky eaters, too.
Yeah. My Whiskers definitely prefers wet food. He gives me the side eye if I try to serve him dry kibble. But what about the advantages of dry food?
Well, dry food is definitely more convenient.
That's true. It's easier to store.
It lasts longer, and it can be more affordable, too.
All good points.
Plus, that crunchy kibble can help with dental health, stripping plaque and tartar off their teeth.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. It really depends on the individual cat, right?
Exactly. Their needs, preferences, lifestyle, all of that plays a role.
Some cats might do great on all dry food. Others might be all about that wet food. And some might need a mix of